Far from bustling cities is Britain's rural countryside. Beautiful, idyllic, yet exposed, it is here that rural communities farm the land. But while the green flowing hills are an escape from the UK's metropolitan areas, Britain's countryside continues to be blighted by rural crime, and with police spending cuts taking hold, what help is there for these already isolated communities? As statistics show a drop in crime rates across the country, rural crime quietly continues to rise year on year. Due to fewer incidents in comparison to urban crime, the overall police focus tends to settle on built-up areas, whilst rural communities often have only one specialist officer per county. Rural crime costs Britain nearly £50 million every year, although the value of what is stolen is meagre compared to the ruthless impact it can have on farming and rural communities. One stolen piece of machinery can mean days or even weeks lost by farms in an industry where time is essential.
That tractor, it was a £90,000 tractor, and the insurance bill to repair it was £25,000 in the end, and we never saw it back for harvest, and we had to rehire another tractor.
Potentially is very damaging because the straw we need for bedding the turkeys, and you know, if we don't have the straw we have a problem. We have to go and find it from elsewhere.
In 2012, hundreds of thousands of residents in rural areas were left without a police station as spending cuts forced 1/3 of all police stations to close. This resulted in crimes having to be reported to officers based miles away, and the mutual relationship between farmers and the police waned as response times increased.
The police officers individually vary enormously. We've had some excellent police officers who have had good local knowledge and understanding, and they're really good guys to work with. And there have been some of them, for example, who will happily walk onto a traveller site without, on their own, and confront the travellers and deal with the issues without any fear. But those officers are very rare. And the officers tend to be town-orientated individuals and a little bit out of their depth when they come out into the country.
If there's been an outbreak of it, they're normally quite good, but if you're like a lone candidate of it, the response is fairly negative. We had a tractor set fire to because they couldn't steal it, and the police and the fire brigade told us it was our own fault for leaving it where it was.
In such a setting where criminals can dodge the gaze of CCTV cameras, catching and prosecuting them is a significantly harder task. For officers out of their familiar urban workplace, this makes the challenge even harder.
It is difficult to tackle rural crime, because obviously you're spread out within a conurbation like Lincoln City. Urban crime can be confined to the city not exactly the city boundaries, but you're more confined in a smaller space and a lot of people. Where in Lincolnshire, in the rural countryside, farms are isolated, rural conurbations are, small rural communities in the wolds or down on the fens. It's just spread out.
Say in the town centres or in an urban district, you've got more people in a smaller area, so you've got more pairs of eyes. So you've got more information coming in. And a lot of our crime is detected through information, like the deer poaching. So you've got more people, more eyes, more people have CCTV in the towns these days. So if you don't catch the people actually doing the crime or committing it, you've got more chance of capturing them afterwards.
In order to get an insight into how the police, and in particular rural crime officers, are tackling the issue, I joined Lincolnshire Police's PC Nick Willey as he investigated crime across the county of Lincolnshire.
I mean, who knows? To be fair, it's ideal sort of ground for badgers.
PC Willey's role focuses on investigating incidents such as disturbed badger sets, rural disputes and trespassing.
I've dealt with a number of varying wildlife rural crimes over the last 4 or 5 years, ranging from buzzards that were poisoned, with people being convicted at court, to badger digging offences.
As one of the few rural crime officers in the county, he can find himself all around Lincolnshire on a daily basis. But with so much ground to cover, there is only so many incidents that he's able to make it to every day.
I am passionate about it because if we don't protect the stuff we've got now, the countryside, the wildlife, and also, you know, somebody has a tractor stolen, people think, well, they can afford to buy a new one. It's not the issue. You know, that farmer might not be able to do his work that day. That contractor that's got to go out to a farm and do his work finds his John Deere's been stolen.
PC Willie is trained in issues of rural crime. However, many other police officers don't have this kind of training, meaning as a result, they often need further advice before they're able to prosecute an offender.
Operation Galileo was formed about 2 years ago, on the back of 2.5, 3 years ago, on the back of really the high increase that we had of over nearly 1,200 hair coursing incidents.
Operation Galileo is one of several initiatives used by Lincolnshire Police to tackle rural crime, and it's the same across the country.
Is that what we're starting to see from the police is that they're very keen to work in partnership with anybody and everybody, and what we're being offered slowly but surely is, as the resource at the police side goes down, that they're quite keen to make sure that everybody else has got an interest, so whether that's the NFU or country landowners or whatever, that we're all rowing in the same direction, so that we're
Despite these, issues such as hair coursing, equipment theft and arson persist, and the onus is increasingly being put on farmers to protect themselves.
You know, a lot of expectations, certainly up to a few years ago, were, well, if I've got a problem, I'll ring the police and they'll come out and deal with it for me. Rather than, I think now there's a growing awareness that the police actually haven't got the resource necessarily to do all that, and that's the same for every walk of life. To actually try and help themselves a little bit more by just making sure they are more secure, more aware.
Cutting-edge technology such as tracker and smart water, as well as CCTV, are increasingly being used to help catch rural criminals. Yet the number of organised gangs continues to rise, and the tools used to steal continue to evolve, with particularly vulnerable farms being targeted.
The question is when it happens again, not if it will happen again. That's, you know, it's going to happen again. You can only do so much to protect everything, and if you do catch anybody, nothing seems to happen to them. You know, the police are very good to give you a victim support package, but, you know, if it didn't happen in the first place, it'd be a lot better.
It's farmers such as these that are most exposed to serious cases of rural crime, and despite tens of thousands of pounds spent on security, even they cannot stop the most determined criminals.
I would like to see some more dedicated officers, like my role. We have options, we're training special constables to do rural crime, looking at other forces what they do. You know, I'm a realist. In this day and age, we're losing funding, we lose policing, we're losing police officers, which is a crying shame. It's a shame that, you know, we need those officers out on the ground.
Rural crime has become part and parcel of countryside life, and the police are having to be increasingly innovative to tackle it. However, the police cuts have ultimately forced rural communities to fend for themselves more than ever before.